First and foremost, I'm not advocating for any sort of ideology when it comes to discussing this topic. I'm just seeing the world as what it is right now. And I know that that's kind of a loaded statement in and of itself, but you see these groups developing, right? People just marshal as they just think that there's some sort of a safety in a big group, and then they see the opposite group because their group thinks that the opposite is evil, and then you have the opposite evil side that thinks, and they have their own big group, and they think that the other side is all irredeemably evil, and it's just this never-ending form of conflict, and it really is just people not thinking for themselves, just under, like they say here, a mass delusional psychosis. You see it happening in a bunch of different areas, right? It's like everybody has their own big sports team, and they just want their big sports team to reign over everybody else's sports team throughout whatever means necessary. They just want to succeed at something because they haven't had the time to look inward on themselves and work on focusing on themselves, which is normally what we talk about on the channel. But when I see things like this manifest so obviously, we better talk about the higher order of the day and address what really is going on, because it's so patently obvious when you just take a step back, when you realize that, probably the most important thing in life is working on yourself instead of worrying about what the group is doing. Because if you're the best version of yourself, and then you integrate yourself with the group, then you can actually do some change, okay? But if you're a broken person going into a group of other broken people, your brokenness will just kind of mash together and then just result in some catastrophic consequences, if we're being completely fair. So, this is a big old article here, and I'm not going to go through every single word. I think there's something like 3,000 words to this article, if not more than that. I'm probably underselling it, but it's a term that's been in a circulation here for a minute, and yeah, we'll get through some of the bullet points here, and then we'll just go through a couple of the topics in a little bit more depth. But the world is suffering from mass delusional psychosis. Might focus a little bit on the coof and the hysteria that's there, but like I said, I'm not advocating for one side or another. You guys probably know my positions on a lot of this stuff anyways. What I'm thinking is it's a bigger thing than that, okay? There are a lot of different tribes forming, and they're all just fundamentally rotten at the core of it. Collectivism is the most evil thing imaginable, and you can't shake me on that one, okay? I'm an individualist supremacist. According to psychiatric and medical legal expert Dr. Mark McDonald had a farm. The true public health crisis is not the coof, rather it's fear of the infection. It has morphed and evolved into a form of mass delusional psychosis. Many enter the state of hysteria when they see an unmasked person, even if they look particularly healthy, and clearly are not suffering from any kind of respiratory issue. This is the highly irrational state that has no basis in reality. Okay, just try to extrapolate that out a little bit further. Okay, you don't see a mask on somebody if you're one of these people who think that everything, every organism on earth should be wearing some sort of a mask at all times. Okay, just think of it. It's like, just take out that sports analogy as well. You see somebody who's wearing a rival cap to your team, you immediately have a preconceived notion of them, okay? You immediately have the irrational fear, the irrational hatred of that person, because how could you possibly support the Texas Rangers? It's that type of tribalism that normally just plays out at those low consequence affairs. Now it's just ratcheted up big time, okay? You see the exact same thing on any college campus, any sort of left-leaning area, with somebody who just shows up and dares to have maybe something that vaguely looks like a MAGA hat, okay? Case in point, what was that during the Summer of Love? There was that girl who was wearing the Make Bitcoin Great Again hat, and she got bike locked or pepper sprayed, something like that. Peaceful group. Delusion is defined as being something that doesn't conform with reality. And that's not even just like your perception of reality, my perception of reality. It's their distorted perception of reality. If it doesn't conform with that, if it's an other, you treat that other as such to remove it from reality because it shouldn't be here. There are serious concerns about the lasting effects of widespread insanity will have on children as they grow up. One of the worst traumas children can suffer as a result of all the fear-mongering is the idea that they may kill their parents or grandparents simply by being around them. If you have wrong think, okay? If you aren't intellectually pure on certain subjects, or if you aren't properly taking the steps that you need to do in order to properly address the climate crisis that's going on, you're eventually going to kill off the world. And what's even worse than that, because if you aren't on the side of the people who think that this is a climate crisis going on right now, you are a pro-genocidist. You can see this isn't specific about the COOF. That's just the framing that they're using for this. Treating the children's trauma in therapy is not going to be enough, as parents and their adults are the ones creating the trauma and their own exaggerated fear response. To heal a generation of traumatized children, we must first address the psychosis of the adult population. Exactly. A number of mental health experts have expressed concern over the blatant fear and panic mongering during the COOF pandemic, warning that potential and, let's face it, likely psychiatric effects and in December 22nd, 2020. That's a lot of twos right there. Article in EV magazine, S.G. Chia discusses what may be in fact the real problem at hand, mass insanity caused by the delusional fear of the COOF. Chia refers to the lectures, the articles by psychiatrist and a medical legal expert, Mark McDonald, who believes the true public health crisis lies in widespread fear, which morphed and evolved into the form of mass delusional psychosis. Science is quite clear about the risk posed by asymptomatic individuals, meaning anyone who feels particularly healthy may yet have tested positive for the COOF with a PCR test set to an excessively high cycle threshold. They pose an exceptionally low risk to others, if any at all. Science is even clearer on the healthy individuals who test negative for the COOF. You simply cannot spread a virus you do not have. But again, you aren't complying to somebody's interpretation of reality. That's unacceptable to them. Despite all of that, they still may enter a state of hysteria if you're not wearing a mask. They see an unmasked person, even if they look perfectly healthy and clearly not suffering from any sort of respiratory issue. The highly irrational state has no basis in reality. In simpler words, the delusional person rejects reality. And in this rejection of reality, others have to play along with how they view the world. Otherwise, their world will not make sense to them. It's why the delusional person will get angry when they face someone who doesn't conform to their worldview. How does it affect them kids? One of the worst traumas children suffer as a result of the fear-mongering is the idea that they may kill their parents or grandparents simply by being around them. As noted by Chia, they also being taught to feel guilty about the behaviors that would normally be completely normal. Just one example is hysterical adults calling a toddler who refuses to wear a mask a brat, when in fact having a restrictive mask put across your face is perfectly normal at that age. What? Yeah, that's their interpretation. Yeah, just cover up, just wear a mask, even though it's cumbersome and awful and fogs up your glasses, or for some people who wear glasses, obviously, but talking, conversing with people, looking at their facial cues when you're just having a discussion, just having half of your face destroyed and the only thing that you can go off is dead, lifeless eyes of these masked cultists. It's not normal for children to grow up thinking that everyone is in danger to everyone else, Chia said, and rightly so. It's not normal at all, and hysterical adults are mindlessly inflicting severe emotional trauma on an entire generation. Yeah, I couldn't imagine if your parents or anything like that, because there were some reports that I covered on the main channel, okay, and probably a little bit more flamboyant of the fashion, but the content remains the same. There were initial reports at some point during the pandemic that kids who test positive and then they get sent home from school or something like that. And regardless, if they test positive, they should self-isolate. And it was for 14 days at the time. And there were reports, at least social media reports, so you can take that however you want, right? Okay. There were the parents and they were posting. It's like, it's so hard. The little Timmy's cooped up in his room, but I know it's the best thing for him and it's the best thing for all of us. I know I can hear little Susie crying in the room next door because she says that she's lonely, but I come in every once in a while all masked up. A triple masked, ha ha ha, and I just deliver her her food, but she has to stay at the other side of the room so I don't get sick under the covers, of course. But that's the way it has to be for 2 weeks so she doesn't kill grandma. Hashtag triple vaxxed. But imagine that, thinking that you're going to bring upon your familial apocalypse if you have a scratchy throat. We're never going to figure out the long-term effects of this or how many people have been affected by this until, well, years, if not decades from now. Delusional people ultimately require controlled environments. Yes, we also, realize that they live even at a smaller area, okay? They live in a totalitarian society. If they live alone, if they have several cats, most of these people do, if they just live with a couple of other people, and even in their workplace as well, okay, they need to have ultimate control over everything, because if there's one unknown that is there, that could be the death of them, because that's what the media tells them. Totalitarian society, McDonald believes, is the ultimate end of societal psychosis unless we do something about it and realize that we're fine, we're perfectly safe. Indeed, we no longer need danger we were in pre-coup. We must not allow our freedoms to be taken from us due to delusional fears, which are enshrined and exploited by the political class. Let's be fair, because they had the opportunity to seize that power up oh so quickly. And yeah, some restrictions are easing that are out there, but you take a look at the emergency powers. How many places have relinquished said emergency powers? Sure, they could just call them up with another state of emergency just out of the blue, but why are you relaxing these procedures? But then still extending your emergency powers and using them for a whole host of unrelated things, controlling the flow of money for certain areas because, oh, it's an emergency, oh, it's necessary, the pandemic says so. That's why the media, that's why the political class continues to tell you that this is dangerous and deadly and variants, they're gonna all try to come and kill you, when in actuality you just need to look at the numbers for yourself and realize that 99 point what percent survivability? Anyways, December 18th, 2020 tweet by political commentator Candace Owens, which again, please, it's Twitter and it's Candace Owens, shovelfuls of salt. Also sums up how irrational the fear and panic have figuratively lobotomized a significant portion of the public. Yep, just listen and believe. Again, yeah, this is the exact same stuff that's happened, and it's happened for generations. Whenever a pretty little white woman says that something bad happened to her, oh my God, the simps come out of the woodworks to defend her. Even if it means somebody's career gets destroyed, somebody's life could be lynched. Let's be fair. Society's burned down just because, oh, we need to defend the woman on this one because she said something that some bad guy, some man might have done some goofy things to her. I won't say that over here because, try to keep it clean. And it might come out a little bit later that, oh, everything's all made up and that guy spent a decade in prison for absolutely no reason. It's almost like all of that fear-mongering, like the heading of the next section here says, fear is never virtuous. Exactly. If you fear something, that just means you don't understand it fully. Okay? Because, yeah, you might think, okay, it might be rational to have a fear of bears or something like that. You're out in the wilderness and all of a sudden you start to hear a rutting around and then it's like, oh crap, there's something coming out of the woods. Fairly quickly, I should probably start running downhill at this point. Or if it's a brown lay down, if it's a black fight back, and if it's white, well, you're pretty much dead. But why are you in the Arctic anyways? But if you understand the pattern of bears, if you understand the best way to fight back against the bears, you'll probably fear them less. And you'll give yourself a fighting chance. That's why it's never virtuous. Okay, I don't look at a deer who's afraid of literally everything and think that, oh boy, that's a majestic, virtuous creature. No, I think that that's probably a disease-carrying disaster that would probably taste better on my plate than it would be doing good in the world if it wasn't. But regardless, a video features a short lecture McDonald gave during America's Frontline Doctors White Coat Summit number 2 in mid-October 2020, titled The Way Forward, Overcoming Fear. Yeah, what does he say? I'm not watching all of it. In it, he points out that not only has fear morphed into a delusional belief that masks, gloves, and physical separation are required to stay alive, but the fear has also been turned into a virtue, which is undoubtedly tragic and wrong. Exactly. Understanding and knowing how to approach the situation, that's what's virtuous. That should imbue you with a sense of meaning and responsibility, not just being scared of literally everybody and then forcing everybody else to bend to your will, bend to your conception of reality. Just because you're weak does not make you virtuous. It can't be any more obvious than that. We're restoring sanity as we move forward. Essentially, citizens are now acting as a de facto police force to suppress other people's freedom. It has terribly harmful effect on society. So how do we get out of the proverbial insane asylum? How do we restore sanity to our society while helping with those at the greatest risk for the complications and death of the coof? McDonald offers the following suggestions in his lecture and the featured interview. We must firmly reject masks as a virtue signal. The idea the action taken out of fear, such as donning a mask, is virtuous. Fear is not helpful and never virtuous. Couldn't get any better, any more succinct than that. Fear is not helpful and never virtuous. We should protect those at greatest risk, meaning the elderly, frail individuals with comorbidities who are in poor health. Exactly. If they can't take care of themselves, then yes, do take care of them. But then at the same time, there's another axiom, and there's another saying that permeates old age care facilities, or even just rehabilitation centers in general. Okay, people who are not at 100%, but they're aspiring to be at 100%, to have their own dignity, to have their own quality of life improved themselves. Never do anything for somebody that they can do for themselves. Okay? Because you rob them of that agency. You rob them of that need for purpose in their life. Because if you do that, you're no better than those Karens that are out there just trying to tell everybody to get 9 jabs or whatever we're at this point. Healthy people should never wear masks, social distance, or self-isolate. Not only are these strategies unhealthy from a physical standpoint, they also perpetuate the delusional psychosis gripping the nation and therefore must end. Exactly. Healthy people should act as healthy people, i.e. normal people. We must embrace courage, truth, honesty, and freedom, not just in our thoughts and our words, but also in our actions. Yes, 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 yes. I think that that's really the best place to end, because there are no more fundamental pillars in your life than that. Always act with courage, always act with truth, be honest in your thoughts, your actions, and your words, and then always act in personal best interest, procuring and exercising the most freedom possible. With all of that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. Once you follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.